The ride to Meldgarden was a quiet one. When Trey and Koré arrived at the factory, they noticed a bunch of Walton Company employees going in and out. Numerous boxes and equipment were on the sidewalk just outside the factory. Trey pulled into a nearby parking spot and then turned the car off. Both of them sat in the car and watched the Walton Company workers. "This is odd," said Trey. "Very," agreed Koré. "Are they renovating, cleaning the inside? This could actually work in our favor." Trey reached into his pocket and pulled out a small silver bracelet. "Before we go in, you should take this. Lewis gave it to me to give to you, but I was going to wait until we were back in HQ." "What is it?" Koré took it in her open hand and looked at it. The bracelet itself was thick and appeared to be way too big for Koré's tiny wrists. "It's a taser, so be careful with it. A new weapon Lewis has been working on for a while. Don't worry about the size, it will adjust to your wrist. There's a hidden button on the bottom side that sets it off willingly, but you can also set it off with blunt force." Trey flipped the bracelet over in Koré's hand and pointed at the hidden button. "If you hit it hard enough against something, it'll go off." "Isn't that dangerous for me? Won't I electrocute myself?" "Well, it's not your standard taser. It actually disperses electric magic. You hit the button or it hits against something and you point it at your assailant and they get zapped." Koré placed the bracelet onto her wrist with the bottom side that Trey showed her in the appropriate spot. The bracelet tightened and conformed to Koré's wrist. How does Lewis come up with these things? He's a genius. Trey opened his door and got out, and Koré did the same. "You ready to go investigate?" By the time Trey put his shades on and turned to look over at Koré, she was already on the move. He walked fast to catch up to her. "You don't waste any time." "We need to find out what's going on. Let me do the talking." Before Trey could answer her, Koré was already approaching one of the employees. "Excuse me." She removed her ID and presented it. "My name is Koré. I'm a detective with the Guard. This is my partner, Elite Guard Officer Trey. We would like to ask you a few questions." The man she asked put down the box he was holding. "We're very busy here and on a time crunch. Is this going to take long?" "It won't. Why are you removing all of the product from this factory?" Koré looked down at the box the Welton employee was moving and noticed some of the magic cubes. She was unsure how to tell if there was magic inside them. "Don't answer that. Just get back to work." The voice came from a man in a dark blue suit. He had short brown hair that was slicked back, and the entire right cheek on his face was replaced by metal. When he approached the man that Koré was talking to, he nodded to him. "Don't worry, I will take care of this." "Yes, sir," responded the employee. He picked back up his box and continued to help move the cargo. "I'm assuming you run this factory?" asked Koré. "I've seen a lot of the Welton Company on television and in other media, but I don't recall ever seeing you." "Apologies." The man stuck out his hand. "Anvil, that's what they call me." Koré shook Anvil's hand. "I'm Koré, this is Trey. An elite officer of the Guard, a rare sight indeed. Is there something happening in this area I should be aware of?" Koré could tell that Anvil was sizing up Trey with his eyes. "If I'm being honest, we were coming to ask some questions about the magic cubes that continue to go missing from the Walton Company's factories." Koré walked past Anvil and took a peek inside the factory. She was surprised to see that most of the machines and product had been removed already. "Wasn't expecting the factory to be empty. If you think this is a precautionary measure due to recent events, you're wrong. Follow me." Anvil walked inside. Koré and Trey followed. "We've had equipment and magic stored in this facility for almost 20 years. One of our most dominant sources of magic harvesting." "Why suddenly take it down?" asked Koré. "It will most likely continue to be used for harvesting magic. However, for the time being, Mr. Welton insists we move its contents in preparation for the ether expansion." "You're moving an entire factory?" asked Trey. "Wouldn't it be easier to just start a new one in the new location?" "That would take too long," said Anvil. Koré tapped one of the few machines still left inside the building. "Raisha said on the Barris show that the ether expansion could take years. Why the rush to move these resources closer to the edge?" Koré didn't want Anvil, or Trey for that matter, to know how much she actually knew about Mr. Welton's progress. "This is just a loose estimation by Mr. Welton. He's doing everything in his power to speed up the process," said Anvil. "Besides, 20 years is a long time to harvest magic from the same spot on Novessa. Building a new factory closer to the edge means we might see an increase in product." "Or a variation," added Koré. "Possible that the magic near the edge is stronger or different in some way, right?" "That is also correct, Detective. You've done your homework." Anvil began walking toward another part of the factory. Trey and Koré followed, but before she moved, Koré noticed some of the magic cubes next to the machine she was tapping. She grabbed the tiniest cube she saw and put it in her pocket. "Can't say I've done that much research," said Koré. "I'm just really good at guessing." Anvil turned back around and Koré smiled at him. She rolled the cube around in her pocket. We'll return to this factory soon after the new one is set up near the edge. Anvil stopped in front of a large office. The windows on the office were tinted and impossible to see through from the outside. Putting together this paperwork to hand in to the guard and West Leader Falco has taken me weeks and I'm near completion. Is there anything else I can help you with before you go? Moving a large number of these cubes in order to station it somewhere else is a bit risky during this time, isn't it? Are you afraid of Mavis attacking the cargo when you move it? I only concern myself with what Mr. Welton tells me to concern myself with, said Anvil. He doesn't seem too worried about Mavis interfering with the ether expansion, therefore neither am I. Perhaps the guard should help escort it for additional security, suggested Koré. Trey leaned over so he could speak in Koré's ear. Don't you think we should run that by your captain first? No need. Anvil interrupted before Koré could answer Trey's question. Mr. Welton has already taken it upon himself to provide security for the transfer. I don't think guard assistance will be necessary. Trey backed away from Koré. I see, she said. Then I guess we'll let you get back to your work. Good luck on the transfer. Thank you, replied Anvil. Have a nice day. Koré waited a few seconds to see if Anvil would open the door to the office so she could get a look inside. But Anvil didn't budge, and the three of them standing there became extremely awkward. Koré smiled and nodded, then began walking out. Trey followed her. They both walked in silence until they got back into Trey's car. A lot to process, said Trey. He's obviously hiding something in that office, but we won't be able to get in without a warrant. Koré took out her phone and used an app to make some notes. Trey tried to peek at what she was writing, but couldn't see the screen. Want to go get one? Or are you going to tell me why you're so adamant in keeping the guard out of this? If I wanted the guard out, I wouldn't have offered our services as security for the transport, Koré reminded him. Besides, Captain Farah isn't the problem in getting a warrant to search this place. Mr. Welton and Falco are. Before I take us back to HQ, Trey hesitated to give Koré time to look away from her phone. When she didn't, he continued to wait until she put it away. What is it? Asked Koré. You going to tell me why you took one of the cubes? Koré stared at Trey blankly and was tempted to play it off like she didn't take one. Instead, she removed the cube from her pocket and held it in front of her. Thought maybe we could study it back at HQ. If this one still has magic inside, maybe Lucy can create an algorithm to help us search for these. Trey started up the car. Not sure that's how that works, and I think you know that. Koré didn't answer. They once again rode in silence, but the place that Trey pulled up to wasn't the guard HQ. Koré was unfamiliar with the street they were on, but judging by the short distance they traveled, she could tell they were still in Meldgarden. What is this place? Asked Koré as Trey turned off the car. Trey stepped out of the car, then leaned down to peek his head inside to talk to Koré. The way you dance around everything, question everything I say, and lie to me, I'm convinced enough to know you don't trust me. If we're going to be partners, we need that trust. Koré remained in the car as Trey walked over to a staircase connected to a set of houses. He went downstairs and vanished from her sight. Koré sighed. Follow your new mysterious partner into an even more suspicious basement. What could possibly go wrong, Kor? She leaned her head back and closed her eyes for a few seconds before leaving the car and following Trey down the stairs. When she got to the end of the staircase, she saw an open metal door. Come on in, she heard Trey say, but couldn't see him from where she was standing. Cautiously, Koré pushed the metal door open further and made her way in. She left the door ajar just in case she needed to make a sudden escape. When Koré finally reached where Trey was, she was taken aback by the room. Inside, she saw metal shelves with books, a bed, and multiple tables with Welton Company cubes and other devices. Seeing the dormant cubes on Trey's tables helped her decipher that the one in her pocket was charged with magic. What is this place? Asked Koré. I told you I worked in Meldgarden for the last couple of years. This is where I stayed when I was off duty. By the looks of it, you never really were off from work. Koré walked over to where Trey was standing. There was a chair with 3 computers in front of it, and behind the desk with the computers was a large map of Novessa. What are all the markings on the map? Mavis sightings, said Trey. That's way more than what the guard has on record. I thought he's only been seen 3 times. Trey leaned over and typed some things into the middle computer. A long list popped up on the screen with quotes from citizens of Meldgarden. These are known reports of people with blue skin and pointy ears running around Novessa. I don't believe Mavis is working alone. There are more of them out there. Koré thought about Saji, but until she knew more about Trey, she wasn't going to mention her. Maybe not all of the blue people with pointy ears are bad. Mavis might be the only evil one. Trey laughed in response, and the way he laughed at what she said made her even more uncomfortable. A new race shows up out of nowhere, and the only one we know about is stealing magic and killing people? The elite guard was formed to protect Novessa. This new threat is the biggest one we've encountered so far. I won't stop until Mavis is caught. It's no coincidence you became my partner, said Koré. You wanted to be paired with me. The reports are many, but you were there for most of the only confirmed sightings of Mavis. Now it's possible he could be hunting you because you keep getting in his way. You're my best chance at getting to him. Koré took out the cube and stared at it again. Trey leaned against the desk with the computers and folded his arms. My real reason for taking this was because I had an idea to lure Mavis out with magic. I figured if I got my hands on enough of these cubes, we could get him to come try to steal it, then catch him. If you make it too obvious, he won't fall for it, said Trey. Right. Now knowing the cube had magic inside, Koré could see some of it resonating through one of the cube's holes. A yellow glare that she could somehow see her reflection in. I just never considered the easiest alternative until you mentioned it, which is, magic isn't the bait. Koré looked at Trey. I am.